good afternoon or morning. We're a bit at indeed the middle point. As has been said by Uwe, the efbww, the European Federation of Building and Woodworkers, representing workers and trade unions in the building and woodworking industries, is happy actually also to be one of the founding members of the Wood4Bauhaus initiative. As many of our members and affiliated trade unions say, wood is good. So we of course fully share this point of view. At the same time, maybe also picking up to what the speaker, the earlier speaker, on behalf of the Bavarian regional state has mentioned, we also have a challenge also actually internally. As the efbww, we do not only represent the building industry, not only the wood and forestry furniture industry, but also building materials at large. So we also represent workers in concrete, in cement, tiles, and bricks. And I think that's maybe a starting point that I want to also share with all of us here. We need to make sure that the green transition is a transition that has all workers on board. And that means that we also need to look at those industries which will be heavily impacted by all the criteria, all the challenges, the very strict targets that have been set, and I want to underline, which are fully shared also by the European Federation of Building and Woodworkers. But we need to make sure that we also keep everyone, all workers, on board. Because what also was clear in the previous panel, there's a need for political support. And what we have seen in recent elections, and also now very recently actually in the US, we see that if you do not have society on board, if you do not have workers on board, then these topics become extremely controversial. And we should do everything to avoid that they are actually controversial, because we do not have time to waste. We do not have time to ignore all the challenges that we have with climate change. That's also something we saw only just a couple of weeks ago in Valencia in Spain. So the construction industry, the wood industries, but also the other building materials industry are key industries in the green transition ahead. They cover many of the societal challenges that we nowadays are faced with. So as briefly already mentioned, making cities climate resilient. Again, the example we had in Spain, but also earlier this year in Central and Eastern Europe. Only 2 years ago also in Belgium and in Germany, with heavy floods, with heavy rains, means that we need to adapt our cities to make them climate and water resistant. Energy renovation of buildings. We hear many different percentages when it comes to the responsibility of buildings in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Sometimes we hear 30%, even up to 45 or 50% buildings being responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, the use of materials, circularity has become a huge topic. Also the energy transition as such. So we need new infrastructure for those new energy sources that we want to use. So huge challenges, and construction is, let's say, the key answer to all of these topics. Are we up for the challenge? I don't think so. A lot of things need to be done. The construction sector is being confronted with huge labor shortages and is confronted with huge issues in terms of skills and is at this moment, and I don't think this is actually a controversial statement, not ready for all these challenges. A lot of things need to be done. First of all, we need to look at the business model in the construction sector and related industries. And again, this relates also to the issue of labor shortages and actually how to increase the attractiveness of these industries. We need to go back to industries, and we need to not only discuss skills of workers, the needed skills, but we also need to discuss the issue of providing good jobs, quality jobs, providing a future also for workers in those industries, which for the efbww is very clear. We need to discuss again direct hiring, direct jobs for workers in these industries. Young workers. It's a huge challenge to attract them in our industries. and it's even maybe a bigger challenge to keep them in our industries. So again, this is also very much related to the issue of attractiveness, of providing a future for workers in these industries and making them also part of this green transition, because without these workers, I mean, we can discuss a lot about everything that is needed to change, but it is workers that are needed to actually also make sure that the buildings are being built, that the renovations are being done, and that all of this can be carried out indeed also with a certain sense of urgency, meaning that we actually really need to speed up. We had earlier this week a discussion with the construction industry in the European Economic and Social Committee, and we also hear, for example, that the renovation wave, which is an extremely important project, is not picking up enough speed at the moment. So we need to increase the speed of all of this. What I also really wanted to mention is the issue of public procurement. Public procurement is a key driver for the change that we see in these industries. And yes, of course, green public procurement, extremely important, but also we need to look at the social aspect of public procurement. The public procurement directives were latest revised in 2014, and Ursula von der Leyen has announced in her political guidelines that in the coming time, probably as of next year, they will be reopened for revision. Very important also to take stock of the revision that happened in 2014. One of the main drivers or the main objectives back then was we need to move away from the lowest price criteria. We need to move away from that criterion, and we need to look at also social criteria, but also at green procurement. There was in 2023 a report from the European Court of Auditors who actually says that, and before going to that, what we did manage in 2014 was indeed to get rid of, let's say, this strict criterion of lowest price. Since then, we have in the procurement directives the issue of that public tenders, public clients can actually go for the most economic advantage tender, meaning that also other criteria can be taken into account, meaning social and also green. And now coming to this EU report of the report of the EU Court of Auditors, basically saying that more even than before, the lowest price has become the guiding criteria. So I think this is really something that we need to put very high on the agenda when we start discussing, as of next year, this revision of the public procurement directives. Last but not least, we also need to look at the bigger picture. When we talk about the use of wood, we also need to know about the sourcing of wood. And we had earlier this year, we had a high-level discussion hosted by the European Commission, by Commissioner Šefčovič, on forest-based industries. One of the key elements that also came out of there is where does the wood go to be transformed? And what we see is that sawmilling in Europe is more and more under pressure, and that more and more of the European wood is actually being shipped to China, to being transformed and then being shipped back. So a question for this room, is this sustainable? Is this climate neutral? I would say no. And in that sense, this is also, I think, and again, and I would like to end with this, referring to Ursula von der Leyen's political guidelines for the new Commission and what she intends to do with public procurement. It's also about the strategic importance of industries. And I think our priority, joint priority of this room should also be to make sure that wood and wood-based industries are part of those strategic priorities. Thank you.
Thank you very much.